I was born in Argentina, 4 hours south of Buenos Aires, in a city called Mar del Plata, which is a beautiful resort by the Atlantic Ocean. Nowadays, it's about 750,000 people big, so it's a relatively large city, though I still think it feels like a very small town. I come from a family that is not musical at all. My mom tells me that when I was about two, I want to go like this, I would say to her. And I was, I didn't even know what it was called, a violin or what. But I said, Mommy, I wanna go like this. I wanna do this. So she tried to find me a violin teacher when I was two. At the time, like I said, it's a relatively large city, but music education was never something particularly strong there. Eventually, I think I was four by then, and my father, who was a medical doctor, he had a patient who happened to be a piano teacher, and she lived right across the street from us. There has been a wonderful symphony orchestra in my city, and I'm sure if I hadn't been exposed to this orchestra, I am not sure I would have dreamed of becoming a conductor. I was probably 12 or so when I heard the Russian National Orchestra come on tour. And I remember there was a woman conducting this orchestra. Her name was Veronika Dudarova. And they played the Pathetique Symphony by Tchaikovsky. And I remember what a strong impression this made on me. It was the first time I heard a foreign orchestra. It was the first time I saw a woman conduct. And so they were all things that for me as a little boy, they meant a lot. And they made me dream that one day I could be doing this too. I had the opportunity to see Heinz Holliger, the wonderful oboe player, composer, conductor. He was the guest conductor for the evening. And I remember how I really loved his music. And so I went to talk to him backstage, and he was kind enough to receive this ignorant 20-something-year-old. And I showed him a couple of my compositions. And he was so kind to give me a lot of his time there backstage when a lot of friends were waiting for him. And he was generous to offer me his time. So these experiences were so inspiring when somebody you've just experienced, at the top of the profession, are generous enough to offer you their time. So this is the kind of experience that to me was so very, very eye-opening. There are many conductors, living conductors that I admire very much. Peter Edvos is someone else, Hungarian conductor-composer that to me was a very, very inspiring figure, role model. I was also lucky to assist him and work with him in Germany at the Donaueschingen Musiktage. So knowing a lot of wonderful composers through him. Martin Brabins has also been a very inspiring figure for me. He was one of my teachers, my mentors. I also assisted him with the BBC Symphony Orchestra in London. And there are many others around. I never met Nicholas Harnoncourt, for example, but he's somebody I've admired so much. Carlos Kleiber, I wish I'd been able to even see him conduct live. Simon Rattle, I saw him conduct more than once. Gustavo Dudamel as well. Michael Tilson Thoman is somebody who comes to mind for so many reasons, a very inspiring figure, a marvelous musician. And I was lucky to work with him as his assistant and cover conductor with the San Francisco Symphony for 2 years. The amount that you learn from seeing somebody rehearse, deal with issues that come up, find creative solutions. Some of the weeks I worked with him, a lot of these concerts were being recorded, like the Schumann Symphony Cycle. So I was, asked as assistant to be the extra pair of ears, taking notes in the hall, bringing notes to him, to the recording engineer, who was another wonderful, wonderful person.
Tell me about the Camellia Symphony.
It's a wonderful, wonderful organization, and they have been so incredibly open to embrace this idea of a programming that is a lot more inclusive. So we collaborate with a lot of living composers. We've been doing a lot of female composers recently. We had Erjin Kang, who is this wonderful violinist who was, instrumental in the rediscovery of Florence Price's music. So she came and played the second violin concerto with us. I've been their music director since 2012, and it's just been a great ride. I'm just very, very grateful for the openness we've received also in the community in terms of support, because you need the donors behind this as well. You need people to continue donating, despite the fact that you're not only doing Brahms and Tchaikovsky, So I try to think of programs that have a concept, that have an idea in which there is a connecting thread. So I think that's where I would say my strongest suit is in being able to come up with programs that are, to me, beautiful, inspiring, and that are more inclusive and more diverse. There is probably only a handful of university orchestras that have released recordings on commercial labels. And this is repertoire that is all very close to my heart, but also extremely hard to play. This is the Ligeti Violin Concerto with Miranda Cookson, another work for violin and orchestra by Lutoslavsky called Chain. Two wonderful violinists called Maximilian Haft, who is American, and also born in Sacramento, but has resided in Europe for the last 15 years or so. He plays the main new music ensembles, Contrechamp in Switzerland, and he's been a soloist at a number of European. One of the pieces on this CD is the Gargantuan Proportions Amérique by Edgar Varese. So that requires 14 percussionists, 5 trombones, including a contrabass trombone, which we were borrowing from the San Francisco Symphony, 2 tubas, all quintuple woodwinds.